That's all I got to say. I really look forward to Fridays because it's really the only day in the week that I'm usually alone and I can just kind of do my thing. And so, yeah, today's my day. Okay. So, I'm talking about Murdaugh today, Alex Murdaugh. The first thing that I want to say is that, the trial starts Monday. Most of us think of, a trial starting, we kind of think of, oh, well, it must be opening arguments. No. The trial officially begins Monday, and you can watch the trial. Oh, I thought I had copy and pasted the link. Obviously, there will be many YouTube channels that will be live streaming the trial. I think Emily is going to be live streaming it. So, but then there is a direct feed from. What's the name of this station? So direct feed for WCBD, that's coming out of South Carolina. So I will get that put up in the description of this video when we're done. If you see this guy, Alex Murdaugh, if you see him now, he bears zero resemblance to the last photographs that we got from him in the media, with the picture perfect red hair and the creepy, empty, dark black eyes like we see with Brian Koberger and Ted Bundy. I mean, Alex Murdaugh, to look at him makes me feel sick. I don't mean like the Chadster, like you make me sick. Not in that way, but there's something disconcerting about his gaze, in the same way that Brian Koberger's gaze is quite aggressive. I hate to say aggressive, strange. And I see the same thing in this Alec Murdaugh character. So that, that's kind of. I also see the same thing in Kenneth Lewis, the CEO of Bank of America. He gives me the same creepy feeling. I can't look at him. He doesn't blink very often. It makes you feel weird. So anyway, so the trial begins Monday. They have not chosen a jury. That is what is going to start on Monday. So they've got jury selection they have to go through. They have to do their whole motions, and things like that. And so it starts Monday. It's the trial of the century. Everyone is going crazy about it. I thought, well, should I name my video, Monday Madness, Murdaugh Madness, Murdaugh Monday, but it all fits because all of the legal eagles on YouTube, the people that love true crime, everybody is just, they're stocking up on popcorn and Diet Coke, and they're ready to dig. Some people have taken time off from work and they're planning on, just, this is better than a vacation. So it's kind of not I'll follow it. I'll comment on certain things that I think are interesting, but probably not going to be a blow by blow account. It's a monster of a case. It's a massive level of history. It's one of those things that it's one of those cases that you would need a graduate degree just for the history of the Murdaugh family to be able to give it justice in terms of covering it gavel to gavel. In truth, this Alex Murdaugh is a part of a real life true dynasty. His what is it? His great grandfather, Randolph Murdaugh Sr. This started back 1920. He was the elected prosecutor from 1920 to 1940 is where it all stood. And then it went from Randolph Murdaugh Sr. to Randolph Buster Murdaugh, not the New Day Buster, but the old day Buster, who was the prosecutor from 1940 to 1986. And then we got old Randy Murdaugh, Randolph. You got to say it with the proper dignity. I say Randolph, dear sir. Could you tell us a little bit about the upcoming trial of your child? Okay, so Randy Murdaugh, 1986 to 2006 as the prosecutor. And then, Alex Murdaugh is not carrying on the family tradition because he has now been disbarred, and he was actually arrested on September 16th, 2021. And my God in heaven, the revelations coming out of this one guy alone, the things that he has been involved in, either directly proven or cursory, is just incredible. And it all started with a boat wreck, right? It all started with the youngest son being incredibly intoxicated, having a boat wreck in the middle of the night that ended up killing one of his friends. And it was a disaster because Alex Murdaugh, born into privilege, coming into the world, and simply because of his name, he was afforded instant credibility. No. You don't have to prove yourself at all, young Alex. We're just going to go on the reputation of 3 generations or 2 generations before you. And we're just going to instantly believe whatever you say or do. You don't have to show any type of proof of ethical behavior, any kind of moral fabric. You don't have to do any of that. Just because you were born into the right family, we're just going to believe whatever ridiculous, absurd, awful, horrible story comes out of your lips. And if you don't have to earn credibility, if you don't have to work and prove yourself to be a trustworthy and moral person, then you can play pretty fast and loose with that kind of privilege. Privilege that is earned, privilege that comes on the back of real live achievement and verified activity. That type of privilege is a goal. That's something you want to work toward and you want to earn and you want to have in your life at some point. But to just be handed with just no reason other than, oh, that's who your mommy and daddy are. Okay. Oh, that's who your grandma and grandpa are. Okay. That's who your aunt is or your uncle is. That's who your great grandpa was. Okay. So we're just going to give you everything. We're not going to question you in any way. And as you break one law after another, no one is going to question you because you are, after all, part of the Murdaughs, right? So this is a real live tale of that old adage, just give them enough rope until they hang themselves. Because that is, in fact, what ended up happening with Alex Murdaugh. So the timeline around this whole debacle that is going to end up being the trial of the century, because of it's just so messy. It's got everything. It's got drugs. It's got murder. It's got homosexual affairs. It's got intermarital infidelities. It's got big, huge, thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars being stolen or misappropriated. You've got people that are being blackmailed. It's the craziest thing ever. And at the heart of all of this, at the beginning, the thing that really got it going was the death of one beautiful young girl by the stupidity of a drunken, narcissistic, overly privileged little kid whose parents knew that he was too drunk. The parents of all these kids, or many of the kids that were in the boat, they saw them as they left the party. They saw them intoxicated, and they stopped at multiple bars along the way, getting more and more intoxicated. It was a terrible thing that they did. And as the accusation, Paul Murdaugh, the young boy that was drunk and caused the death of his friend, he was treated with privilege. When they finally came to arrest him for, I don't remember if it was manslaughter or I think it was manslaughter. They didn't even take him down to the police station for booking. It was done quietly in a private hallway at the courthouse so nobody would see. And how shocking are the details of how that same young boy, Paul, 22-year-old, how he died, allegedly at the hands of Alex Murdaugh. They just released the information today. This young guy, Paul Murdaugh, got stinking, smacking drunk, ended up putting the lives of like 6 or 7 kids in danger, and ultimately one girl in the boat was killed. And I've got a video that I've done just on her, but right now I want to focus on this point. Paul Murdaugh kills this young girl. It's accidental. He's drunk. He's operating a boat. They have a boat accident. They believe that the young girl came out of the boat, hit her head, and ultimately drowned. But he was responsible. Because of that, there was a series of investigations. Now, I think there were already rumblings related to money laundering and things like that. But with the death of the girl, things changed. The mask of privilege and being untouchable slipped. And there were some investigators and there were some prosecutors in another county who said, hold on, this is not good. What's going on here? What's happening over there? And they began to look. And so when the report was released today on the details of how Paul Murdaugh died, it's shocking if you remember that it was his bad behavior, his unruly drunkenness causing the death of this beautiful young woman, that it's believed that he was then killed, he and his mother. So 22-year-old Paul Murdaugh was shot twice with a shotgun. They were on the family's South Carolina estate, and the level of horror in terms of the amount of damage that it did to his body is just incredible. So he was initially shot in the chest. There was a second bullet that entered his left shoulder that went up his neck and into his brain. And the Dr. Kenneth Kinsey, the forensic pathologist that completed the work, said the brain was completely detached from the head. This was believed to be the immediate cause of death. He was in the feed room for the dog kennels. He was there to feed the dogs, and his mother Maggie was standing back about 30 yards away from this internal room. So when you think about the location, you think about the setting and how this all happened, the thought of the father going into this barn and shooting his child twice is just, it's bone chilling, truly bone chilling. Maggie, the mother, didn't get out of this unscathed. She was actually shot 5 times. She was shot one time in the back of the head. So this 22-year-old son and his mom were assassinated on some level. Now, there's suggestion or a belief that it was about insurance money. That the reality was that Alex Murdaugh was out of money. He had stolen from anyone named Peter and never paid Paul. He's just stealing. He even got people insurance settlements for things like wrongful death cases, and he only would give a portion of the settlement to the people that were rightly owed, and then he would pocket the rest of it. Alex Murdaugh is insane. He's an example of why they tell you not to get a dog as a pet that is over pedigreed, because they have a big problem with behavior. Your little Heinz 57 dog that's just happily trotting around the roads out there living his best life, those are really kind of the healthiest, little pets. Alex Murdaugh seems to be afflicted with being the overly pedigreed human being, because he did things that were unthinkable, unspeakable, unimaginable. So you have to forgive the South Carolina law enforcement. You have to forgive them of the delay in timing in terms of their investigation and prosecution, because that as they went through and walked through each of these crimes and they uncovered more and they uncovered more, that they kept thinking, how is this possible that people just looked the other way while Alex Murdaugh was doing crazy, incredible things? And you have to wonder, what was it that Alex Murdaugh was thinking as he was getting away with it? That would be, to me, so interesting to talk to this guy. I don't normally have a thought of, wow, I'd like to question this person, or I'd like to talk to this criminal. But in this case, you just got to think, every time he would do something, and the people, the office workers, the other attorneys, whatnot, when they would look at each other and go, wow, this doesn't seem right, but nobody did anything. It is very interesting. It is very interesting. All right. When I was thinking about how I wanted to introduce this topic, because I'm going to be just like every other YouTube channel, probably. I'm going to be talking about this case at the trial as it's going on. I am not going to be live streaming it, but I'll continue to do my regular videos and commenting on, the interesting part of the day and whatnot in court. But in consideration of doing that, I think I'll go back and sort of start a timeline for understanding a little bit of how this thing unfolded. I covered the boat wreck on my channel, but then I kind of backed off because the case just kept going and going, and there was more and there was more, and it just seemed like it was all running together and getting lost. And so I think I want to go back and just kind of do a timeline check and prepare for Monday in that way. So there was a young man, Stephen Smith, and Stephen Smith was found dead. This was on July the 8th, 2015. He was found in the middle of the road in Sandy Run, which was in Hampton County. He's a 19-year-old, and they believe his body was found a couple of miles outside of town, and initially they thought he had been run over by a car. After his body was located and found, there was disagreement among the investigators about how Smith had died. He was just 6 miles from his home. And according to the South Carolina Highway Patrol, Murdaugh's name was mentioned multiple times as they were investigating the death. Now, this was July the 8th, 2015. Yeah, like 18 years ago. Not 8 years ago, sorry. It's very interesting because you can see Paul Murdaugh, Alex Murdaugh, and the older son, Buster. They all have that same very fair white complexion, red hair. They have that same look about them. And if you look up the picture of Stephen Smith, he looks like Alex Murdaugh. It's very strange. And my thoughts of him looking like a Murdaugh genetically didn't really fit with what others have come out with. Others have said, oh, well, Stephen Smith was homosexual and he was having an affair with Buster. Or Stephen Smith was homosexual and he was really good friends with Paul. Or Paul had bullied Stephen Smith. And so you got a lot of those kinds of stories. But I didn't hear anybody else say, but wait a minute, does no one else see the resemblance? Stephen Smith looks like he could be the child of Alex Murdaugh. So Stephen Smith is found dead. An attorney for, hold on a second. So there's another strange death in the Murdaugh history, just the history related to Alex. You got Stephen Smith, which was July, and then we got February 2018, the Murdaugh longtime family housekeeper dies. Her name is Gloria. And this would be one of those episodes where there was a wrongful death or accidental death. There was a financial payout. And the sons of Gloria, who rightfully should have received the whole amount of the insurance payment, they only got a small portion of it. And they found the rest of the money where? In Alex Murdaugh's bank account. So an attorney for Satterfield's son said that Maggie Murdaugh, the mother, is the one that was home when this thing happened, and that she made the 911 call saying Gloria has fallen down the stairs. Both Paul and Maggie spoke to the 911 operator. When the ambulance arrived, attorney Eric Bland says that Gloria Satterfield was on the ground and that there was blood next to her head. She was airlifted to Somerville, where she lived for 3 weeks, and then they turned off the machines and she died. In February 2019, there is the boat crash that I spoke of. This was a boat crash that occurred in the boat ran into Archers Creek Bridge in Beaufort. It killed a 19-year-old girl, a friend of Paul's. Her name is Mallory Beach. They believe that she was knocked unconscious and her body was not found until a week later, many miles from the original site. The coroner said that Beach died from blunt force trauma and drowning. There were a total of 6 teenagers in the boat, including the driver of the boat, which was 19-year-old Paul Murdaugh, and he was hammered, smashed drunk, unable to stand up straight to walk. Hours before the crash, investigators say the surveillance footage showed Paul Murdaugh buying alcohol with a fake ID at Parker's convenience store in a place called Ridgeland, South Carolina. Not only did they show him buying the alcohol in the convenience store, but there's also camera footage in 2 bars where he went in to bars that were right by the river and was drinking. Many of the kids that were in the boat were saying, "Hey, Paul, there's been enough to drink. We don't need any more. It's cold out here. We're tired. We want to go home." They stayed out at the boat and waited on Paul and his friend to go and drink and come back. So there was a point of contention. They were not happy with Paul because he's playing the role of an alcoholic. He acts like, once he starts drinking, he can't stop. And unfortunately, it was a disaster that ended the life of this young woman. Then on April the 18th, 2019, Paul Murdaugh was charged with boating under the influence in the crash that killed Mallory Beach. A nurse at Beaufort Memorial Hospital said after the crash, Paul Murdaugh was wearing only his boxer shorts and that he was, quotation marks, grossly intoxicated and belligerent. He was combative. A bond test showed Paul Murdaugh's blood alcohol content was 0.286, more than 3 times the legal limit, and that was 2 hours after the crash. So his body had already been metabolizing a lot of the alcohol. On June the 7th, 2021, Alex Murdaugh places a 911 call saying he has just found his beloved Maggie and youngest son Paul gunned down at their Moselle property. It was a hunting lodge. They had more than 1,700 acres of land. Murdaugh told dispatchers that he found the bodies on the ground by the dog kennels on the property. "I've been up to it," meaning the bodies. He says it. "I've been up to it. It's bad," Murdaugh tells the dispatcher. "Neither one of them is moving." Talk about depersonalization. Investigators determined that both Maggie and Paul were killed, but with 2 separate firearms. On June 22nd, 2021, the investigative department said that, they would open an investigation into Stephen Smith's death because there had been evidence found as they were looking into the death of Stephen Smith. That they were reopening the investigation into Stephen Smith because of new information that had been uncovered as they were looking into the deaths of Maggie and Paul. Isn't that crazy? It's just the number of years going by is just shocking. On September the 3rd in 2021, Alex Murdaugh resigned from his dynasty law firm, the Peters, Murdaugh, Parker, Elksroth, and Dietrich law firm. On September the 4th, 2021, the next day, Alex Murdaugh calls 911. He's claiming that he has been shot in the head and he's on the side of the road in Hampton County. Murdaugh claimed he was shot in the head while changing a tire on his Mercedes-Benz along the old Salkehatchie Road. He was transported to the hospital in Savannah, Georgia, for a superficial gunshot wound. I mean, this is, we just need to call Alex Murdaugh a drama queen. He's a drama queen. On September the 6th, 2021, Alex Murdaugh enters rehab for what? Prescription drug use. And apparently it wasn't, a little bit of prescriptions. It was a whole lot of prescriptions. September the 13th, 2021, was announced an investigation into missing money from Murdaugh's former law firm. On September the 14th of 2021, they arrest Curtis Eddie Smith. Oh, Eddie. Eddie and Alex, partners in crime, like Thelma and Louise. Eddie Smith is arrested in connection with the shooting of Alex Murdaugh in Hampton County that occurred on September 4th. According to investigators, Murdaugh provided Smith with a gun and told Smith to go and shoot his son, shoot him in the head so that his son, Buster, could collect some life insurance money. It's crazy. This is the craziest. It's crazy that so much could happen in one family in such a short period of time. On September 15th, 2021, remember Gloria Satterfield, the longtime beloved, well-loved housekeeper for Maggie Murdaugh and her sons? Well, the sons of Gloria file a lawsuit against Alex Murdaugh. They said, Alex Murdaugh, his buddy Corey Fleming, they and some of their cronies stole our settlement money. We have learned that we didn't just get a couple $1,000s from the settlement. The settlement was substantial. Alex says he doesn't know anything about it. Where's our money? So they file suit against Alex as well as a guy named Corey Fleming. The housekeeper's sons hired Fleming, Murdaugh's former college roommate, as their first attorney in a wrongful death lawsuit. They said that Fleming never told them that a settlement was reached in the case. They learned about the settlement from a newspaper article. Then Corey Fleming is later indicted on 18 charges, including money laundering, computer crimes, criminal conspiracy, false statement, misrepresentation, and with an insurance transaction, as well as a breach of trust. You can't even, if you have a YouTube channel talking about true crime and you want to cover this case surrounding Alex Murdaugh, you don't even know where to start because it's so much. It was so nasty and wide tentacles into so many people's lives that were badly, badly harmed by this alleged psychopath. On September the 16th, 2021, Alex Murdaugh turned himself in for his role in the September 4th shooting. This is the shooting not against Paul and his wife, but this is where he said, hey, oh, by the way, shoot me in the head so my older son, my only surviving relative or child, can get some insurance money. So they didn't even do that right. So poor old Buster, well, he's just still flat broke. And he doesn't have a mom or a brother. And now his dad is in jail and been unveiled as a creep. So you got to feel bad for Buster. On October the 14th, 2021, Alex Murdaugh arrested at a Florida rehab facility in connection to stealing from the estate of his former housekeeper, Gloria Satterfield. The SLED, which is the investigators in South Carolina, confirmed that they are reopening the Gloria Satterfield death. So now they're looking at, was poor old Gloria murdered? Specifically so that they could collect a settlement. In the months following, Alex Murdaugh was indicted on numerous charges, including breach of trust, money laundering, computer crimes, forgery, another case of money laundering through computer crimes. He is accused of defrauding victims of millions of dollars, not thousands, millions. And at this point, in October 2021, he was facing 80 charges. And he still had some hair. Looks like his hair is all gone now. May 31st, 2022, in a court filing, Alex Murdaugh admits that he did steal the Satterfield sons millions of dollars and that he now owes it to them. I believe the amount was more than $4 million. July the 14th, 2022, a grand jury indicts Alex Murdaugh on 2 murder charges connected to the killings of Maggie and Paul. The indictments say that Murdaugh used a rifle to kill his wife, shot her 5 times, 1 time in the back of the head, and he used a shotgun to kill his youngest son, 1 time in the chest and the other time up through the neck. And it was in an enclosed area where Paul was getting feed for the dogs. So when I say an alleged psychopath, the motive for the homicides is still unknown, although some newspapers, mainstream media outlets have reported large life insurance policies on both Paul and Maggie. Murdaugh's attorneys say he denies involvement, releasing the following statement in part. Alex wants his family, friends. Do you think this guy has any friends left? I mean, really. Alex wants his family, friends, and everyone to know that he did not have anything to do with the murders of Maggie and Paul. He loved them more than anything in the world. On July 20th, 2022, there was a bond hearing scheduled for Alex Murdaugh on murder charges. And here we are now in January 2023. And Monday, January 23rd, 2023 is deemed Murdaugh Monday because the trial begins. All right? So it's a lot, isn't it, Bebop? It is scary crazy. It's scary crazy to figure out how is it possible that one man who is so high profile, he's got a very public position, very prominent family, friends with so many people and organizations, and they all just let him get away with these things. I said it before. Give them enough rope and they'll hang themselves. And I think that is where Alex Murdaugh finds himself today. I'm going to show you one of the pictures of Stephen Smith. And remember, this is just that question. A lot of people have said other things. Now, this is a picture of what he looked like, when he was first arrested. He sure does look blank and empty. And he's one of these people very rarely, blinks. But he's very fair complected. His skin is really, really fair. That's Fleming. Got a picture of Stephen. There's Stephen right there. So that's Stephen. He looks like Alex Murdaugh. His hair is red. very fair complected, bright red lips. You know, I mean, he's got that look. He could be the offspring, but I haven't heard anybody else say that. The rumors, people talking, it's always been that this guy and the older brother Buster may have been in a relationship. And then I also heard some rumors that Paul may have actually been bullying this Stephen. And Stephen Smith, here's Maggie and Paul. And there's Paul as he was presenting for the boat accident. This was the day that he was arrested. And this is the young woman that lost her life. And Mallory Beach. So actually, I said that's Mallory Beach. They're great friend from school. And this is the housekeeper, Satterfield. And here's another picture of Stephen Smith. And he died July 2015. So there's Alex Murdaugh. And there's Stephen Smith. They look very similar. It's really strange. But again, I'm the only one that I know that has said that. So, you know, I'm just giving my thoughts, not that that's a real story or anything. Okay. All right. So it's a crazy story. The lawyer, Peter Tragus, he's going to be doing nightly recaps. He's not going to be following the live streaming the trial because, he works. And that's probably why I'm not doing it, because I work too. But we'll talk about, high points of the trial and the things that happen. Emily, of course, will be live streaming, she will. Scott Reich may do that this go around. LawTube will be doing it. So for those of you that have the time and y'all are able to watch during the day, maybe y'all would be willing to come up on panel at night and fill me in on the high points, right? I wonder if the brother paying his legal fees is the one he stole the $120,000 from. Gracious, who knows with this story? It's messy. That's the absolute best word that I can think of to describe it. It's messy. Paul seems to be everything negative one would expect from the baby of a very wealthy legacy family. He certainly fit the stereotype, right? He did fit the stereotype, and he did not deserve to lose his life. But neither did the other young people connected to this story that died, or the housekeeper that died. Anytime you have one family and you got all these peripheral deaths, just look at Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell. Same kind of thing. Why does everybody in your family keep dying? People have to start questioning the frequency of death, I would be worried if this guy even knew my name. Hey, Fractured Fairy Tales. He is the Wreck-It Ralph of narcissists. He could not stop lying, stealing, and killing. And it was always about money, wasn't it? It was one of those stories where he was obsessed with money. All right. Okay, so there we have it. Monday, January the 23rd, 2023 is Murdaugh Monday. And the trial officially starts, and that means motions and hearings and jury selection. All right. Okay. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. I appreciate you being here and listening, and get ready because it's going to be a crazy 3 months.